And good morning to you. It's a Monday morning. I know it. We'll get through it. It's Mental Health Monday. It's already Monday. Hard to believe. What the heck happened to the weekend, right? Good to have you with us. I'm Todd Duplantis, and we've got a half hour of your HCC news and information coming your way and some special guests. But first, my special guest, she is here and ready for your entertainment pleasure. Randy Ramsey is joining us. Randy, it's always good to see you and hear from you.
Always good to be here, Todd. And on a Monday, it's so weird. It's not a Friday. I
know it's today. It's weird. It's here on a Monday. We're going to switch it up for you. Each week, we're just going to make you guess whether or not you're hosting the show.
What day? What day today?
And Melanie will text you at like 9 a.m. and say, "Hey, are you ready for the show? Did you get the script change?" And you can say, "I'm at Target."
I'm at Target. That was a month ago. I was at Target. What?
That's right.
Oh, was it Friday? It did happen.
Wow. Yeah, but you made it back, and
I did. Yeah. Look, that's the thing. A good Target is always close by. I live in Katy, so I mean, there's like 4 of them.
You know, it's like in Texas, you got to live close to an HEB, a Buc-ee's, and a Target.
And I've got all of them within 5 minutes of my house, so I'm a very lucky woman. Blessed. # blessed.
She's living in utopia, folks.
Not to mention the pool and the lake. It's not bad out here in the hinterlands. Anyway. Oh, Todd froze. Well, I should tell you guys that we are live on Houston Community College District Facebook page and YouTube, not HCC. We're also on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and on HCCTV at noon, 5 and 10 p.m. Monday through Friday. And since do I still have Sean and Nicholas with me? Yay. Okay. Well, while Todd's rehooking back up, I'll just keep going. Today, we're going to visit with a department chair who keeps our students looking back so they can make the best decisions looking forward. Dr. Nicholas Cox is the history department chair and professor of United States and Texas history. And Dr. Cox, if you don't mind hanging around for a few minutes, we'll be right back with you. And I'm super excited because I'm a huge history buff.
Excellent. Good morning. Yes.
Good morning. And then welcome back, Dr. Sean Fitzpatrick, Executive Director of the Jung Center of Houston, our Mental Health Monday guest. Welcome back to the show, Sean.
Hey, Randy. So
good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Monday? I'm good.
Good. Yeah, it is Monday.
It is Monday.
But very happy to start it with y'all this morning. So.
I spent the weekend at the river down at the Blanco River, and I have to say, it was very apropos to our topic today because I find geese very triggering. Because
really?
Yes, we had geese when I was a kid, and they're very mean. You think they're so pretty from a distance, they're fine, but they're biters.
Yeah,
they're little biters. Yeah. So I'm all for a stuffed goose Christmas dinner, but that's just. So it has become common for trigger warnings to appear in media and other places. Even the classroom, I use it in my classroom when I'm showing video clips for my film students. So what are these and what purpose do they serve?
So I'm so grateful for that story about the geese, Randy. So trigger warnings are really connected to histories of trauma. Okay, they don't have to be, but by and large, they are. We have automatic responses to trauma, and trauma, understood really like concretely, is experiencing a real or perceived threat to your life at some point. And often the experiences that we have when we're little, like as an adult, I might think about the goose coming at me and maybe nipping at me is not that big of a threat. But if you're a child, right, that's overwhelming, right?
When you're 3, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, right? So what happens when we experience a threat like that is that our system, for automatic systems, go online to protect us. And you might have heard of the flight instinct, the fight instinct, the freeze instinct. And those are all, hardwired within us. They just, they happen in an instant. We don't necessarily have control over them taking over. So if you have a history of trauma, when you are in conditions that might remind you of that, so like when you see a goose, it might trigger that, not the memory, but the response, the physical responses that we have. And it can be re-traumatizing, or it can be overwhelming for people. So that's why we're now you're seeing more of these warnings that there's content coming that might be difficult and might evoke those feelings of being really threatened.
I think it's apropos to talk about it the day after 9/11. A lot of that content had trigger warnings, which I thought was a good thing.
Yeah, it's fascinating too. It's great that you mentioned that, because I saw a trailer for a documentary that was on last night, and I looked at it and I thought, 21 years later, I still am not sure that I really want to spend time with that. It was very difficult that period of time, and I was surprised by it. Like, it's been 21 years, and I'm still shaken by it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm back. Did you guys miss me?
Good to see you, Todd.
Yeah, good to be back. Good to see you, Sean. And Randy, thanks for jumping in. Don't know what the heck happened there, but just lost connection. But we're back on. And I know we're talking about trauma. I did catch the end of 9/11. Sean, you brought up a good point, because during that time of 9/11, that was back when I was working in the news industry. And I can remember, and what I found myself doing yesterday, and I tried to stay away from the documentaries, was revisiting that moment. And like you said, you're not sure if you really want to go back there, because it's something that I don't think many of us, I still know people who get teary-eyed because they lived in New York, they worked near the Trade Center towers, or they had family or connection. Randy's raising her hand. A lot of people had connections to that. So it can be triggering, I would imagine, having it 24/7 on one day of the year, played on every cable channel around.
Yeah, absolutely. And my personal experience of that, it's not, I was not in New York. This is actually a good way of talking about something we call secondary trauma.
Right.
So I had a couple of people in New York that I was keeping tabs of, but more than anything, I was just simply being exposed to images of profound suffering. Yeah. And it had an effect on my life. Actually, I developed insomnia because I was up for that first week. I was up at 4 a.m. watching the CNN, 24-hour feed. Yeah. That really hasn't let go. Like, it's been a part of my life since then. So we don't have to have experienced a threat to life ourselves to be to experience trauma. We can be a witness to it, and the same systems take hold in our body to protect us. There are parts of us that are below the level of our conscious control that just come online, and their intention is to protect us. But what it often does is that those parts interfere with our ability to function in the world. Right, or they may make it awkward to be in public. For instance, if you are beginning to tear up, right, and you feel as though you have a lot of control over that. So that's So you don't have to have been directly exposed to it as a person to be deeply affected by it.
Oh, absolutely. Sean, I want to bring into the conversation this multiple personality disorder. How does this tie into the conversation? Is this something we all have experience with?
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned that. So, because I started talking about parts of us, right? And the term multiple personality disorder is not something we use anymore. We use dissociative identity disorder.
Okay.
But the idea is simply that all of us, normal functioning human beings, are structured not really as an individual, but as a community. And a community of parts. And the neuroscience behind this is very interesting. So David Eagleman, who is a neuroscientist, he's at Stanford now. He was local. He was here at Baylor College of Medicine for many years. He uses the metaphor of Abraham Lincoln's cabinet, which was referred to as a team of rivals.
Yeah.
And so what Lincoln did was, he hired the candidates who he had beaten in different stages of his race to be in his cabinet, so that he would know that he was always getting a full picture. He wasn't just going to be surrounded by people who wanted to please him. And Eagleman uses that as a way of talking about actually neurologically how we're wired, that we're actually more of an inner cabinet, or I think he uses the term parliament, that there are many parts of us, and they may actually, they intend to help, right? Nothing intends to actively hurt us, but the ways that they help may be really counterproductive for other parts of us. Yeah. We don't all have multiple personality disorder, but we do all have multiple parts of ourselves.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. The committee in your head is more than, I guess, reality in a lot of ways for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yep. Yes, definitely.
Back to being triggered. What can you do if you are triggered by something?
The very first thing to do is, and this can be the toughest, is to have compassion for yourself, right? We run really quickly to moral judgments about being weak, not having courage, not being resilient, not being strong. But to acknowledge, just take a moment and acknowledge that this is happening right now, and I need to attend to it. I need to pay attention to it. You likely already have simple ways to soothe yourself that have always been present for you. Often we develop them when we're children.
Sure.
But some ideas around this are deep breathing. Exercise has always been really important for me. Going out, taking a walk, or doing something. You may actually you can connect with other people who care about you. Listen, I love listening to music, journaling, all of these different techniques to bring yourself back to yourself and not in that trauma space. Because what happens when we're triggered is our bodies race back in time. Or they're in a place where they imagine threat, or they race back to a time when we did experience threat. So what we want to do is, if we need to leave the situation, we can leave the situation. We want to just allow ourselves to have the experience we're having. And usually it will unwind if you do that, if you allow it to be, and if you take conscious steps to kind of soothe yourself and be with the experience.
You're talking about things it seems like I'm very familiar with over the last few months, all these, being triggered and dealing with trauma, but all of them, everything you brought to the light here certainly does. I know it helps our audience, and it's something I can relate to, Sean. We are going to have to get together and have that coffee soon, Sean.
Yeah, would love it, Todd.
All right, well, take care of yourself. Thanks for being here on Mental Health Monday, and I'm going to turn things over to Randy, who's got another special guest. Randy?
Thanks, Todd. Thanks so much. And thanks, Sean. I appreciate it. And welcome again, Dr. Cox, history, our HCC department chair and professor of U.S. and Texas history. How are you doing today, Dr. Cox?
Thank you. I'm great. Good morning.
Well, good morning. I'm super excited. So let's start with you telling us about some of the history offerings we have here at HCC for people who aren't familiar with it.
Sure. I think the primary sort of responsibility of the history department is instruction, and we teach United States history. We do that in two sequence courses, a fall spring 1301, 1302 sequence. Most of our students are here to take their core general education classes, and most of them take US 1 and US 2. The state of Texas requires 6 hours of American history. Now, we also have 9 other sophomore classes, and our third largest enrollment is in the Texas history class. We offer a 2-sequence African-American history class and a 2-sequence Mexican-American history class. Those are all American history classes as well, and I would encourage students to consider taking them as a way to satisfy the state core. And then we have 4 other classes that are non-US history classes. That would be our 2-part world history class and our 2-part Western civilization classes. Those don't meet the American history core, but you can take one of them if you're a student in Texas towards your humanities core requirement. So students at HCC could take 3 history classes here in order to satisfy their state core. We would be greatly happy if they took all 11.
I think they would gain a lot from it. So I understand there's some upcoming history events.
Yeah, aside from instruction, yeah, that's right. Our history department is committed to research and public engagement. We have historians that speak to the public at public libraries. We have historians that participate with other instructors around the state and nation in various associations. Just this week behind us, several HCC professors were involved in the Texas Oral History Association meeting. Next week, many of us will be in San Antonio at the American Historical Association's meeting for teaching in Texas. We have a committee that bring guest speakers to campus every semester, and we have events really from October to April that focus on various topics. I think the first couple of guests we have speaking here will come from the Houston Public Libraries, Rice University, the University of Houston, and other Houston area institutions to talk about immigration history, African-American history, women's history. And so we're really looking forward to those events.
And where can students find out about that?
Yeah, we flyer the campuses where the events are located, and those are typically at campuses with large enrollments like Central or West Loop or elsewhere. And we'll have a public-facing list of those events. Should be shared broadly by our campus publicity offices. People can always email me as well. I have a ready list of those events on hand if someone wants to email me about them. But perhaps I can share that with you after this interview, and it can be added to our social media stream.
Absolutely. So, we're always a good way to get info out. I'm just so interested that you just returned from the Texas Oral History Association meeting, which is something that I encourage my students to use. As a writer, as a filmmaker, one of the ways that you can write good characters is to access those oral history assets that exist. So it goes beyond just the history classes to also being something that is useful across all forms of education, I think. Because how do I write a character who's been in a historical period that I haven't? I listen to their oral history if I have access to it, which is great. Mm-hmm. So they have some events coming up at the Gregory School.
Well, the Texas Oral History Association meeting is an annual event every September, organized by Baylor, but the site location varies year to year. I think this year was the first year that it was in Houston, and we spent Friday. We spent Friday at the Gregory School. That is a subdivision of the Houston Public Library. Used to be a segregated African-American school built in the 1920s. It's now a depository for archives in the Houston Public Library system, particularly focused on African-American culture. So we spent Friday there. This Saturday, we were at the Houston Holocaust Museum. One of the most I would say groundbreaking and useful oral history projects that was the subject of the keynote address on Saturday is the Harris County AIDS HIV Oral History Project. This is an interview collection of more than 100 interviewees, survivors and caretakers, housed electronically so people can listen on the Rice University Fondren Library website, but an independent oral history project that's sort of happening here in the Harris County community. We also had several HCC faculty members involved talking about their oral history experience. Jim Ross Nazal, who was a guest here last week, is doing an oral history project on the second ward with students at the Eastside campus. Instructor Trina Walker has been working on an oral history associated with the Taylor Stevenson Ranch, an African-American ranch in Houston with connections to our rodeo, as well as African-American pilot training post-World War II airfields. So a lot of great Houston history showing up in these Texas oral history archives and projects.
I mean, we have some really great faculty, and they've recently gotten some awards, some kudos. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, I think the most exciting recent award is going to instructor Natalie Garza. She proposed and won an endowment from the Ewan Family Grant to develop a interactive app that brings oral histories and site visits and history of the Second Ward to residents in Houston or visitors in Houston that want to learn more about the historic Mexican-American community along the Ship Channel. And that Second Ward community is a vibrant historical community with a lot of stories to tell that often are locally well-known and should have a lot more attention. And I think that the development of this app with the grant that Dr. Garza secured is going to be really kind of path-breaking local history work.
Oh, will you come back and tell us more about that as she's working on it?
Yeah, I would actually.
Or we'll have her
do that. We'll see if we can get her to give you updates.
That's so great. How interesting and unusual, and a great way to use technology. And now there's an upcoming conference in San Antonio.
That's right. This weekend, a lot of us are going to assemble in San Antonio. One thing that's sort of distinct about Texas, other than being a very large state, is that our government requires 6 hours of American history in public colleges. It's in the core. It's been like that by legislative law for over 100 years, I think. That's not true across the country. And because Texas is large and has this requirement, the American Historical Association has decided 7-8 years in a row now to hold a conference in Texas for Texas educators to talk about teaching. A lot of historians go to conferences that are focused on their research fields. But this one is sort of explicitly focused on improving instruction, particularly in the survey classes that are the opening or the gateway courses to general education like U.S. history or Texas history. So the conference will be in San Antonio this year. Like the like the Texas Oral History Association meeting, this is a Texas conference, but it's a different city every year. We hosted it in 2017, shortly after Hurricane Harvey. And that was a really cathartic experience to have people from all over Texas come together in Houston to see and share experiences in Harvey, but also to work on pedagogy and instruction. So I look forward to seeing everybody again this weekend in San Antonio.
Learning how to teach history in the middle of a historical moment.
That's right.
What was obviously going to be a long historical moment for Houston and the area.
And the past couple of meetings have been online. They've been virtual for the past couple of years. So this one in San Antonio will be the first in-person association meeting for a little bit. So again, thinking about teaching and improving teaching in a historical moment, they just keep rolling.
Exactly. It's been that kind of a couple of years, I think. Mm-hmm. It's a little, but it must be nice to be getting back in person.
It is. Well, it's good to see people.
Thank you so much for taking time out, especially when you have a busy couple of weeks. Dr. Nicholas Cox, History of HCC's Department Chair of History, inverting myself, and a professor of United States and Texas history. We have some links in the post after the show. Thank you for being here. And thank you for all you're doing. It's so exciting.
Thank you both. I appreciate the time.
All right. Thanks, Randy and Dr. Cox. And Randy, by the way, Natalie Garza is one of our co-hosts here at Up to the Minute. So she'll give us updates on that project all the time. I'm so excited. I hadn't heard about it till just now. So I'm such a huge fan of oral history and local history. With Natalie. So we'll make that happen. I'll fangirl out a little bit. It'll be a little embarrassing for me. All right. But, yeah. All right. We'll get some news and announcements to get to. First off, Wells Fargo, Women in Business. HCC and Wells Fargo continues its Open for Business partnership with another small business success series for women. Next up is Ignite the Entrepreneur in Your Soul. Participants can understand key traits of successful entrepreneurs, their leadership style, and problem-solving skills to negotiate, sell, and achieve goals. More modules will follow. It's noon to 2 p.m. Tuesday and Thursday, September 13th and 15th. It's on Zoom. Check out the post after the show with a link for more details. And mental wellness support groups, coping skills. That's happening as well, Randy. This month. It's virtual. Yep. It's our HCC virtual mental wellness support group for all students 18 and older. And coping skills much needed by all of them, obviously myself included. Led by HCC counselor Nicole Loving, whose name is super perfect for her job. These groups provide safe spaces and mental health awareness. I cannot talk today. And education, and you get some emotional support. It's by WebEx, 3:30 Wednesday, September 14th. Check our post to register. You're doing fine. It's okay. My tongue is. I need a little caffeine or something. But look, I lost my internet connection earlier, so I can't even speak, so I'm just happy to be here right now. All right. Annual compliance training. Yay. I love annual compliance training. You love annual compliance training, but it's a fact of life here at HCC. You have to do the compliance training or you'll get an uncomfortable phone call from your department chair or your boss. We get lovely detailed emails about how we should log on and do it. We should just, I get it. No, but Karens are they're very long, and then they're followed by a text message, and then they're very good. Yeah. So we want to remind folks to make time this week. You got till September 30th, like everybody's going to do it this week. Everybody's going to do it September the 29th. Let's at 2 a.m. here. That's the way it works. Yeah. Or maybe September 30th or afterwards when their supervisor calls them. All right. But no, we want you to usually rock up at 11 o'clock on September 29th and go, I forgot to do my compliance training. And then I stay up until 3 o'clock in the morning. I've got to do mine because I'm a supervisor and I get emails telling me all the people on the team who haven't done it. And I think I'm in there as well. Okay. FERPA training, Title IX for higher education, fire safety and prevention, which is always intriguing, but it's very important. Very important. Stop. Texas Education Code, formerly Senate Bill 212, and protecting the rights of minors on campus. All important trainings. And hey, you got to do them anyway. You got to do them anyway. So you got to get them done. I find that the fire safety training goes really well with a dry martini. Okay, she just didn't say that. Just take that out. We'll edit that out of the show. Okay. Okay. All right. So all of them need to be done by September 30th. They'll only take you a little while. Okay. A little while. So get them done. All right. It's time for transfer fairs as well.
Yes, students can join HCC at one of the many campuses hosting the Fall 2022 College Transfer Fairs from October 3rd through the 12th, when they can hear from more than 60 universities speaking directly to them. 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday the 3rd at Northline and Eastside. Tuesday, October 4th, Central and Stafford. More transfer fairs to follow. Check the district Facebook page or the link in our post after the show for more details, but very important to get in on that now.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to skip to the end because we're running out of time, but shorter classes are still available right now. If you want to take classes, fall's underway, second start's coming up real quickly, and you've got shorter sessions. You still have to get the same amount of class time in. So
you just
the sessions
do it
get
more.
Shorter. What's that?
Yeah, it gets more intensive and longer.
But you can still get it done before the spring. So now's the time to register. 5 ways to learn. You can get them all done. hccs.edu/apply is your one website to get all that done. Okay, Tasty Tuesday, another member of the Ortega family, the culinary dynasty that brings you Backstreet Cafe, Hugo's, and many more. Pastry chef Ruben Ortega, also an HCC student. Yep, he's going to be here. He's been nominated for a James Beard Award. And we've also got another great guest on the show, Randy.
My boss, Dr. Colleen Riley, Dean of the Media, Visual, and Performing Arts Center of Excellence.
Oh, she'll be here tomorrow. I'll tell her you're doing a good job.
Thank you very much. I need a little, after the martini comment, I need all the help I can get.
And I'll tell her that you've done all your training.
She should go check.
She should go check. All right. Okay. All right. Randy, thanks for being here and picking up the mantle when I lost connection. Thanks always.
No worries. That's what I'm here for. Always happy to see you, Todd.
All right. Thank you for being here, folks. We'll be back tomorrow live, 10 a.m. up to the minute.
Sometimes what you need just shows up. Houston Community College has your back, whether you're knocking out some basics or upping your game for a better job. Enroll today for spring classes and frame your future with HCC.
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry, I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Being prepared is a part of who you are, but it's especially important in the case of a disaster. Be informed about possible emergencies in your area. Make a plan that covers where you go in an emergency. Build a kit with the things you need to survive. There's no one more capable of planning for your situation than you. Start your plan today. Go to ready.gov/myplan.
150 over 90.
180 over 111.
160 over 110. I had a stroke.
Your blood pressure numbers could change your life. Lowering them could save you from having a stroke. If you've stopped your treatment plan, restart it or talk to your doctor about creating one that works better for you. Start taking the right steps at manageyourbp.org.
Now I'm, trying to get better, stronger than ever.